That's
Very good evening, all of you. Dear doctors, on behalf of AOGS and the Harmonica Acumentis, I am Pratik. Along with my marketing team and my UP sales team, I would like to welcome all the delegates and the attendees for this CME. And we have with us Dr. Lalita Shukla, AOGS President, and Dr. Ritu Sinha as a AOGS Secretary. So, very good evening, all of you, and welcome you all for this CME. I would like to hand over now with Dr. Ritu Sinha. Ma'am, please start. Ma'am, your voice is not audible. Hello. Ma'am, your voice is not audible.
मैम डॉक्टर मिश्रा मैम अनम्यूट कर लीजिए.
Okay. Hello.
Namaste, doctor.
Namaste, madam.
Good evening to everyone.
Namaskar, madam.
ऐसे तो मेरे कान में बोलता रहेगा ऐसे. हेलो मिस्टर प्रतीक.
Yes, ma'am.
अब मेरा आवाज आ रहा है?
Yes, ma'am. Ma'am, please start. आप start से करिए.
हेलो.
Hello. Yes, ma'am. Your voice is audible, ma'am.
Okay, now I'll start.
तुमने
ma'am,
दो
please
जगह
start.
जूम ऑन
Ma'am,
किया हुआ है
दो जगह
ऋतु,
से
एको हो रहा है.
लॉगिन किया है आपने.
दो जगह. हाँ अभी.
हाँ.
कहाँ से काटूं?
मोबाइल से लॉग आउट कर दीजिए मैम.
मोबाइल से.
मोबाइल में
दोनों में से एक ही चालू रखो तो वो इको नहीं होगा. Ma'am, it's not audible.
Varma ma'am, namaste.
Namaste. God bless you.
Hello, Shubha ma'am. Lalita Shukla ma'am, namaskar.
हेलो.
Rama Mishra ma'am, good afternoon.
Good afternoon. आप कैसे हैं? आपका तो वहाँ चल रहा है.
जी मैम, वो 4:30 बजे से है. तो
अच्छा.
हमने कहा पहले यहाँ पे ज्वाइन कर लेंगे.
Good.
आज आप
Thank you for informing.
मैम आज तो प्रॉब्लम नहीं हुआ ज्वाइन करने में आपको?
आज एकदम नहीं हुआ, फौरन आ गया.
अरे वाह, चलिए.
मैं तो 3:45 बजे से हूँ. सब लोग बात कर रहे हैं आपस में. अब अनम्यूट करना है, बताइएगा तो हम लोग म्यूट कर लेंगे. आवाज नहीं आ रही है यहाँ से.
नहीं है.
Hello, Dr. Manisha. Good luck to all the moderators.
Thank you so much.
Panelists भी हैं. Actually हम लोग को कुछ सुनाई नहीं पड़ रहा.
Next time we'll not avoid keeping it on Thursdays because there are DNB classes at Kamla Nehru going on Thursdays. So those students also find it difficult to join us.
Evening में भी free नहीं है. It is.
I have heard Shubhadi was saying.
Okay.
Let's change it to
I think they must be having classes from 4 to 6.
4 to 6 only on Thursdays.
Only on Thursdays.
I think mobile हम तुम्हारे.
Ritu, come on, start.
हुआ भाई.
आवाज नहीं आ रही है.
करा तब आ रही है.
अब खोल के देखो, अब तो आ रही है ना, देर हो रही है काफी।
जाना मेरा हाथ एकदम फ्रिजिड था।
Whom you speak आ रही है आवाज।
आ रही है, आ रही है।
डॉक्टर नौटियाल पहाड़ पे हैं लगता है।
बिल्कुल, बहुत
देहरादून
ठंडा है यहाँ।
देहरादून।
हाँ,
बहुत
वही तो,
ठंडा है।
टोपी ओपी पहने।
हेलो नौटियाल।
वही तो 4 बजे के बाद बहुत ठंड हो जाती है।
इलाहाबाद में हो रही
ठंड
तो
तो
वहां
यहाँ
तो
भी
बहुत
है,
हो
हम
रही
लोग
होगी।
हाँ,
यहाँ तो हम लोग भी।
यहाँ पे चिलिंग है, बिल्कुल है।
लग रही है।
Please start. What is the problem now?
ऋतु स्टार्ट।
क्या आवाज नहीं आ रही है?
संगीता, पूजा, शुभा, ऐसा
ऋतु स्टार्ट, आवाज आ रही है।
लग रहा है खूब ठंड हो रही है ना।
टोपी लगा रखी है।
अच्छा लग रहा है।
हीटर नहीं लगाई है क्या?
नहीं नहीं, बहुत अच्छा लग रहा है, लगा ही रही है।
हीटर लगाइए, मैं तो हीटर में बैठी हूँ।
ओ, बहुत हीटर से तो थोड़ी परेशानी होने लगती है ना।
नहीं, दूर से
कितनी देर
लगाइए,
लगाओ? बहुत ठंडा।
कमरा गर्म कर लीजिए बस।
ऋतु शुरू कर।
कोई आवाज नहीं आ रही ना।
ऋतु is playing dumb charade with us, I think.
बहुत बहुत अच्छा लग रहा है सब
तुम
मिलके
ऋतु
देख
स्टार्ट
रागिनी,
करो।
नमस्ते।
ललिता जी।
आयरन किया था उसने।
अमृता जी, आपका पंखा बहुत सुंदर लग रहा है।
ये मेरे बच्चों का कमरा है तो वो बच्चों का पंखा है। छोटा
डॉक्टर अमृता, ऋतु की तरफ से कोई दिक्कत है तो आप देख लीजिए, स्टार्ट कर दीजिए बात करके ऋतु से।
स्टार्ट कर दूं?
ललिता दी आप स्टार्ट कर दीजिए।
मैं स्टार्ट कर दूं?
हाँ जी दीदी, आप स्टार्ट करिए।
मेरी स्लाइड भी नहीं हो पाएगी। तो मोबाइल से स्टार्ट कर लो भाई, अगर प्रॉब्लम है तो।
मैं बात करती हूँ एक बार, फिर मैं बताती हूँ।
हेलो, मेरी अब आवाज आ रही है?
हाँ आ रही है।
आ रही है।
वेलकम।
बात रही है।
ओके ठीक है ना, मैं स्टार्ट करती हूँ। चलिए। गुड इवनिंग एवरीवन।
गुड इवनिंग।
ये बहुत इको हो रहा है।
आवाज आ रही है एकदम।
मैम प्लीज
मोबाइल
लॉग
से
आउट
कर
फ्रॉम
ले वो।
लैपटॉप। सिर्फ आप मोबाइल ऑन
मोबाइल
रखिए।
से कर भाई,
ठीक है, मोबाइल से कर लेती हूँ। ठीक है।
मोबाइल से।
आवाज आ रही है भाई।
एको हो रहा है
हाँ।
कहीं पे।
हेलो,
यस मैम।
मैं देख क्यों नहीं रही हूँ इस पे?
मैम
तुम
आप
बोलो।
कैमरा ऑन
ओके,
कीजिए।
आप कैमरा ऑन।
हाँ यस मैम।
ठीक है।
यस।
अभी ठीक है?
आ गया आ गया।
हाँ ठीक है, ठीक है, ठीक है। चलो। गुड इवनिंग एवरीवन एंड अ वेरी वार्म वेलकम। इज इट ऑडिबल नाउ?
यस मैम।
Yes, ma'am, you're audible.
First of all, I want to wish a very happy new year to all of the esteemed members. I must say that the beginning of this year is indeed a happy one. And as we now have corona vaccine around, we hope to have the real and physical meetings very soon so that we can meet, greet, and celebrate. Before starting the session, I want to pay my sincere gratitude to all my teachers and seniors and colleagues. Dr. Baveja ma'am, Dr. Mukherjee ma'am, Dr. Manjula Pandey ma'am, Dr. Manju Verma ma'am, Dr. Rama Mishra ma'am, Dr. Ragini Mehrotra ma'am, Dr. Ghosh, Dr. Andalip Didi, please accept my naman. And I also want to admit that I shall seek cooperation from each of you, and I'll try my best to keep up the glorious tradition set by my seniors, office bearers, and most important, the members of AOGS. Now, coming on to the scientific session, first of all, I welcome and invite our president, Dr. Lalita Shukla ma'am, lady with a calm demeanor though, to say a few words. Lalita di, we welcome you.
Yes. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, Didi.
Good evening, respected seniors and friends. I welcome you to the inaugural CME of this year. As we all know, PCOD has assumed epidemic proportions, reinforcing the need for constant discussion and updating ourselves with the latest developments, especially management strategies. We hope to have many more fruitful CMEs in the future, and I welcome suggestions from everyone regarding topics to be covered. We are indeed privileged to have an august gathering on a virtual platform and excellent panelists who will enlighten us. Namaste to all my seniors, and thank you. And please continue. I will ask Dr. Manju Verma to go with the procedure.
Hello.
Now I request all the esteemed members to join us for a virtual Ganesh Vandana. May God bless us and guide us in our difficult time. Mr. Pratik, please play the Vandana. Hello, Mr. Pratik, please play the Vandana. वो ऐसे टड़ा क्यों मारा उसने? मुझे तो कुछ सुनाई नहीं दिया, मुझे कुछ भी नहीं सुनाई दी। वंदना तो सुनाई नहीं दिया। मिस्टर प्रतीक,
हेलो मैम।
तो दिख गई
मैम आवाज नहीं आ रहा है आपको
हाँ
मेरा?
जी मिस्टर प्रतीक, वंदना तो ऑडिबल ही नहीं थी।
आवाज
नहीं
नहीं आ रहे थे
मेरे साइड से सब
हमें
ऑन है
वंदना की आवाज नहीं आई।
गणेश वंदना
मैम। मेरे साइड से तो साउंड ऑन है।
तो आगे बढ़ो प्रेयर।
Okay, okay. Okay. After this Ganesh Vandana and receiving the blessings of Almighty, now we move on to our scientific session. It's a panel discussion on PCOS, adolescence to midlife. Panel is moderated by our very own Dr. Manisha Gupta Didi, Dr. Shubha Pandey, and the panel our esteemed panelists are Dr. Shubha.
आवाज गई।
I am audible.
Yes.
तो मोबाइल से कर दें।
मैम अनम्यूट करिए। हो
रितु मैम अनम्यूट करिए अपने आप को।
हेलो, अभी आ रही है?
हाँ
हाँ भाई।
Okay, now we quickly move on to our scientific session, a panel discussion on PCOS, adolescence to midlife. The panel is moderated by Dr. Manisha Gupta ma'am, and our esteemed panelists are Dr. Shubha Pandey, Dr. Sabita Dikshit, Dr. Pooja Singh, Dr. Garima Trivedi, and above all, we have our panel expert, Dr. Ragini Mehrotra ma'am. To chair the session, we have Dr. Manju Verma, my mentor and teacher of teachers. I request Dr. Lalita to please welcome and introduce Dr. Verma to the house. Please, Dr. Lalita Di.
Need it.
ललिता मैम अनम्यूट करिए।
अब यही चलेगा कि हाँ हाँ।
मैम प्लीज अनम्यूट योरसेल्फ। मनीषा मैम का नेटवर्क इशू है कुछ।
अरे ठीक है,
स्टार्ट
फेस
करो।
यार तुम्हारा बहुत अच्छा फेस है।
अच्छा से इंट्रोडक्शन हो गया, स्टार्ट करिए।
Start the panel discussion.
स्टार्ट करिए।
Dr. Verma. Hello,
Yeah.
Dr. Verma. Dr. Verma, आप
हाँ
introduce
हाँ
करिए.
बोलो.
You please introduce Dr.
अच्छा
Manisha.
मनीषा को इंट्रोड्यूस. ओके ओके आई एम स्टार्टिंग.
Just
add
allow,
on.
yeah, just invite her to open her panel, ma'am.
At the outset, I would like to thank first the AOGS President Dr. Lalita, Secretary Dr. Ritu, and all the office bearers and congratulate for the first webinar of their tenure. So, and then I would like to, without wasting the time, I would like to introduce Dr. Manisha. She is a undergraduate and postgraduate from the Motilal Nehru Medical College, and she has passed her MBBS with honors, and she holds the degrees of masters in obstetric and gynecology as well as FIMCH. She has done research on fetal birth weight prediction by maternal nutrition and parameters, which was accepted and awarded at AICOG. She is an ex-consultant at Nazareth Hospital and NCR Railway Hospital, Allahabad. She has been chairperson for the Mission Pink Health, and the field of interest of hers are basically female infertility and cervical prevention, cervical cancer prevention. And now I hand over the place to Dr. Manisha, please.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am, for the wonderful words. I can just say that हम लोग आप ही को कर सकते हैं. Even today, I can remember you, Dr. Mehrotra, Dr. Mishra, all of you teaching us in UG and PG days. Today, we'll be discussing PCOS in a case-oriented manner at different stages of life after Dr. Ritu Sinha briefly introduces the topic to us. Over to Dr. Ritu Sinha.
Am I
She's
audible?
a dynamic secretary at Parka Hospital and a practicing gynecologist.
Manisha Di?
Yeah.
Is my voice clear?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Dr. Manisha. Okay. Thank you, Dr. Manisha Di, for allowing me to share the platform and to give a brief introduction of the topic PCOS. To start my slides, please share my slides.
Ma'am, can you please stop this? Manisha ma'am, please stop this share.
Manisha Di, आप अपना शेयर करना stop कर दीजिए. Manisha Di, you
stop.
Here are my slides.
रितु मैम एक सेकंड मैं शेयर कर रहा हूँ.
हाँ जी. Yeah.
Is it visible, ma'am?
Yeah.
बढ़ेगा
yes. इससे बढ़ेगा. इससे से बढ़ेगा.
मैम अगर आप मोबाइल से लॉगिन किए तो आप जूम कर सकते हो मैम स्लाइड्स.
अच्छा ठीक है. Okay, let me start now. Okay.
Yes,
to start with the incidents. Okay.
Yeah.
Now I'll give you a brief introduction on the subject PCOS. To start with the incidents, we can see it is something between 5 to 20% in the women of 15 to 45 years. It's a huge number of patients, and it implies that all of us, as a gynecologist, as obstetrician, or as an infertility specialist, we do get our share of PCOS in women who comes to us, especially when it is infertility specialist, where almost 30% of the patients, they present with possibly underlying PCOS. And when we look at the patients with women with irregular menstruation, we find that over 90% of them have PCOS. Next. Okay. Here we see PCOS. Next slide. Yeah.
Yes.
Here we see PCOS as a spectrum, and most minuscule of this spectrum would show only the polycystic ovaries on the ultrasound and no symptoms whatsoever. But However, when we go on expanding this spectrum to a maximum size, then we could find all the types of presentation starting from dermatological, menstrual, and metabolic evidence. And of course, the ultrasound evidence of polycystic ovaries. Next. Having said that, why do I need to tell you the epidemiology of the PCOS? Because there is an ethnic predilection as well as the hereditary inclination. Out of the ethnic predilection, we find that South India and Maharashtra, these are the two states, they have enough of papers which show that Indians have the highest incidence probably in the world for PCOS. If you see the scope of the problem, we find that PCOS affects 116 million women worldwide. These were the WHO data from 2012. And I'm sure that these might have increased or doubled or even tripled in the intervening 8 years. Now, the global prevalence is 2.2 to 26%, depending upon the type of population we screen, which means that it may be as high as 1 in 4. Rates are obviously higher in countries where obesity and type 2 diabetes are common, and 36% of adolescent girls may have PCOS in India. This is a recent publication in 2017, and obviously this is an end result of westernization, different dietary habits we have, the most sedentary lifestyle, and of course, a lot of socio-cultural changes that has happened over the couple of past decades. Next. If you look at the diagnostic criteria, we will be aware that they were first published in 1990 and were called as NIH criteria, which has evolved over a period of time into ESHRE or Rotterdam criteria, which were published in 2003. And then we have androgen excess and PCOS society criteria, which were published in 2006. All of these mentioned here just for the sake of completion of the topic, and we are all aware that these are now gone out of favor, and now we follow the modern criteria which were published in 2018. And I'll just come to that in 1 or 2 slides. Next. Here, this is the original paper by Ricardo Aziz and Enrico Carmina. Back jaiye, previous slide. Please show the previous slide. Yes. Here, this is the original paper that was published by Ricardo Aziz and Enrico Carmina of Androgen Society, Androgen Access and PCOS Society. I've just put it here in case you are interested in knowing how the entire concept of PCOS as a syndrome of androgen excess have evolved. Next slide. And this is an excerpt from that paper where they have published that there are a variety of phenotypes which were possible depending on the different permutation and combinations of the presenting complaints. And we have seen that 2 out of the 3 criteria are needed to be present, which are hyperandrogenemia, oligo or anovulation, and polycystic ovarian morphology. Next. Having said that, it is important for us to emphasize that not all androgen excess equates PCOS, and PCO is not always equivalent to PCO syndrome. And therefore, we can also have PCO syndrome without having polycystic ovaries when 2 out of the 3 criteria are present. Next. And now I come on to this most recent guidelines, which I was referring to earlier. This is ESHRE, SRM, Monash University, and KRIPKOS guidelines, which were published in August of 2018. More than 3,000 health professionals, including the people from allied sciences like pharmacology, cosmetologists, psychological counselors, they were taken into account, and all their experiences and of course the evidences are instilled in to create these guidelines. Next. And now we follow the clinical, these guidelines only to manage for the clinical management of PCO syndrome. And here I end my introductory slides, and now I hand over the
Thanks, Dr. Ritu, for the crisp introduction about PCOS. As Ritu was telling, is a syndrome, but it may be a syndrome syndrome for the UG and PG students. But for us as clinicians, it is just like a mystery of Sherlock Holmes, where the thief has stolen the grace and femininity of, and we are just wondering about searching for the thief, what to do and what not to do. In short, I'll just give a short recap of the puberty. What happens? Puberty sets in with the onset of Thilarche at 8 years, followed almost 2.5 years later by menarche, roughly by the age of 11 years, when some amount of irregularity of periods is considered normal. So this we always have to take into consideration when we are going to treat the adolescent patients, and that gray area has to be and kept in mind. Like we have to rule out whether the menstrual irregularity is because of the physiological maturation or immaturity phase of the hypothalamus pituitary axis, or whether it is due to or whether that girl, the adolescent who is coming to us, is at risk of PCOS. So now just to see the demarcations and to find the cutoffs, what are taken at present, I'll request Dr. Garima to tell us how to assess the menstrual and ovulatory dysfunction in adolescents and when to label them at risk for PCOS.
Thank you, ma'am. As we see in the adolescent periods, the periods are very unpredictable, but they are never more than 90 days of the cycle. If the amenorrhea is more than 90 days, even in the first year of menarche, it is considered to be for evaluation. And if the cycle length is less than 21 days or more than 45 days and it is persistently present, then we have to evaluate the patient on that PCOS level. And when there are no menses by the age of 15 years or 2 to 3 years, even after breast budding, so these all indicate ovulatory dysfunction, and patient may be evaluated towards PCOS. Apart from this, there are several risk factors which are related to androgen axis also. That is, moderate to severe hirsutism is there, and free testosterone levels are also increased in these patients, and acne which are not responding to treatment also. So ovulatory dysfunction, hyperandrogenism, and somehow when the patient insists for a transabdominal sonography, then we can go for her ultrasound, and in that stromal echogenicity is the only feature that can differentiate it from the multicystic ovaries, which are very common in the adolescent age group, ma'am.
Yes, stromal echogenicity should be beyond more than part of the total volume of the ovary. Okay, nicely explained, Garima. Now, could you please tell us the probable causes of adolescent PCOS? Why do some girls they land in PCOS?
Ma'am, adolescent PCOS, it is mostly polygenic disorder, and environmental causes are there. In environmental causes, antenatal period, fetus are exposed to some drugs or some epigenetic fetal morphology is there. And in postnatal causes, the sedentary lifestyle, obesity, and various drug intake, it may all lead to all these causes of PCOS.
Good. The visceral adiposities during childhood should be avoided. We should explain to the mothers not to pump the children with butter kha lo, ghee kha lo, pizza kha lo, hai na? All these things should be avoided because they think that in childhood everything is excusable. So that's not the reason. Then we see these IUGR babies which are born, they have malnutrition and intrauterine life. They are also more prone to this because they have hyperinsulinemia in the postnatal phase, and that is somehow the culprit. We'll come to know later on. Thank you, Garima, for the nice explanation. Now, we often see, as Dr. Garima was also telling, that we see patients in adolescent age coming with increased hair growth on the lips or on the chin, So that time also again the dilemma comes that whether it is physiological or it is going towards the abnormal hyperandrogenemia. So now I'll invite Dr. Pooja. She'll tell us how to differentiate between hypertrichosis and hirsutism. Dr. Pooja? Dr. Pooja Singh?
Yes, am I audible, ma'am?
Come on.
Okay. Thank
you. Tell us about how you will differentiate between hypertrichosis and and hirsutism whenever you see adolescent patients or young girls.
We often see this problem, and basically hirsutism is excessive growth of terminal hair in the androgen dependent areas of the body, whereas hypertrichosis is excessive growth of hair all over the body, but they are fine in nature. So basically that is the difference, and that is how we differentiate. Terminal hair is thick pigmented hair, and it is usually more than 5 mm.
Okay. And the distribution is always, if it is due to hyperandrogenism, the distribution will be male pattern. Okay. Nicely said, Pooja. Now, what are the common causes of hirsutism? Will you tell us?
Yes.
Basically, the diagnosis.
Okay. Basically, for hirsutism, the causes of hirsutism are categorized into ovarian, adrenal causes, and some other causes. Basically, in ovarian causes, the common one is polycystic ovarian syndrome, and others are like androgen secreting tumors of the ovary. Adrenal causes could be congenital adrenal hyperplasia, which is of late onset, adrenal tumors, and Cushing syndrome. And less common causes like acromegaly also. And also in hyperprolactinemia or thyroid dysfunction, we see hirsutism is there, and drug induced also. We have a list of drugs that can cause hirsutism, and we have to look into that as well.
You always have to ask for the history of drug intake.
Drug intake should be asked.
What relevant history will you ask to the diagnosis?
Basically, if for drug intake, we will ask specifically, or if not, then we can ask like if she has been suffering with some allergic skin conditions or any respiratory disorders for which she might be taking steroids and all, or if she has taken any treatment in the past, which is like long term, or on any anti-epileptic medications. So like that, we can ask her about the...
Yes, good. Commonest is a history of the conventional OCs, which they keep taking for irregular periods, because these hirsutism girls, they also have some amount of delayed periods or periods of amenorrhea. What happens? They go to a simple physician, and he'll just advise the common and they lead to hirsutism. So that is a post-pill hirsutism. Then we can also take the history of whether the girl or the young athlete, she's an athlete, or she's frequently taking part in sports and all, because they also sometimes they use anabolic steroids. Sometimes the coaches and the institutes and academies where they are going, they give them anabolic steroids, and that can also lead to hirsutism. Thank you, Pooja. Now we would like to treat the patient of hirsutism. Once the diagnosis is confirmed, how do you know the severity of hirsutism, and how do you grade it? And I would also like you to tell us the scoring system for hirsutism. For the audience and mainly the
scoring system for hirsutism, that is modified Ferryman which we examine the areas which are androgen dependent, which is upper lip, chin, chest, upper abdomen, lower abdomen, back, arms and thighs. Now we give the scoring from 0 to 4. 0 is absence of terminal hair, and 4 is extensive growth of terminal hair. And according to that, we scored them. If the score is more than 8, then it comes into hirsutism. So the maximum score is 36, and if it is more than 15, it is severe hirsutism. So that is how we grade the hirsutism.
Thank you, Pooja, for the nice scoring and detailed description of hirsutism. I think it will be helpful for the PG students if they are there. Now I would like you to solve one case. She's this now you can see on the screen. She's a 18-year-old who comes to you saying that she has a memory of 2 months and has noticed hair growth on upper lips and chins since last 2 years. Took some cosmetic treatment also, but it has again recurred. She attained menarche at the age of 13 years, and at that time also the cycle length was 30 to 35 days. But now she's having cycles of 45 to 60 days since last 2 years. But she's not taken, I don't think she has taken any treatment for that. How do you proceed further? What would be the best drug to give to this patient, seeing that she is 18 years old?
Okay, ma'am. So basically we have this young girl here, and
I'll give you some clue to the diagnosis. Investigations on the screen are there. Her total testosterone is 100 nanogram. LH is 18 international units. FSH 6 international units. Dehydroepiandrosterone sulfate is 200 microgram per deciliter. USG also she has abdominal scan done, wherein volume is 13 cc in the right ovary and the left ovary is 10 cc. It is a misprint.
Okay.
Now, like you have to categorize the patient where she's standing. In the first column of adrenal or ovarian or miscellaneous or pituitary cause.
Okay, ma'am. So basically, my line of...
To help you, I'll just give you the same. This one. Like testosterone, total testosterone you have. TAS you have 200. Should I show you the investigations, Dr. Pooja?
Yes, ma'am, again, please. Okay. So basically, we have these investigations.
If you want to get some other things done, you can let us know.
Yes, obviously, ma'am. I think even if I've got the investigations done, I think I would go ahead with asking for a few more investigations.
Yes, definitely.
I will actually start from the good detailed history examination and then coming to the investigation part. Well, in the history, I would, if she's coming in with amenorrhea, and also she's coming with increased hair growth. So I would like to ask more in detail about her menstrual cycle, like if she has taken any treatment in the past for irregular cycles. And for hair growth, I would ask if she has taken any treatment and what kind of treatment she has taken, if it is associated with any signs of virilization as well, like deepening of voice or anything like that. Then I would ask her a few more questions, like thinking like thyroid dysfunction and prolactin problems as well. So I would ask her some questions as well, like if she has got any cold intolerance or if there is history of galactoria. So all these things are...
Family history, would you like to know something? Dr. Pooja?
I think some network issue is there, ma'am.
Network issues is there.
Yeah.
Anyway, we'll always go for family and in the late onset hyperplasia, there may be a history of one of the sibling.
Am I audible?
Or some close relative.
Am I audible, ma'am?
Yes, ma'am.
Now you are audible. Now continue.
So I was on the history part,
Yes.
asking her a few more questions which could aid in the future management. So asking her a few things more about, like, thinking of in the line of any thyroid dysfunction or hyperprolactinemia. Then I would ask her if she's taking any drugs currently, and also I would ask about her family history, any history of diabetes mellitus, hypertension in the family, or mother, aunt, sister affected with polycystic ovarian syndrome. Then I would take her sexual history as well, if she's sexually active, and if she smokes or not, because all these things will help us in the future management plan. Then I would, because I've already got few investigations, but still I would go ask few questions for like, if thinking of Cushing syndrome, and although unlikely because I have got few investigations in hand. Now, for the examination part, I will check her blood pressure, her BMI, then obviously I'll do the FG scoring to see where she stands because she has got hirsutism, and then looking for any hyperpigmented areas in the body as well. Then coming to the investigation parts, I know we have got few investigations here, but I would like to have a free testosterone levels. I would like to have her thyroid function test, her prolactin levels, and LH, FSH is like helpful, but it is not always necessary. And we have got LH, FSH here. And then DHES levels basically suggest if there's any adrenal cause for her problem. And ultrasound to check her ovarian size, number of follicles, the diameter of the follicles and all. And in this case, because the LH-FSH ratio is 3, testosterone is not very high to think in terms of androgen secreting tumors. And the DHES is not very high. So we sort of rule out the adrenal causes for it. So basically, what test we have got, if we go by that, then the diagnosis suggests more towards the polycystic ovarian syndrome. So once we have come to a diagnosis that it could be a polycystic ovarian syndrome, I would like to get her basic oral glucose tolerance test, or if not, then at least a fasting blood sugar, and also a baseline lipid profile. So I think in the investigation parts, I will do that. And I'm sorry, I think I got disconnected. One most important thing was to check her urine pregnancy test, because she's coming in with the history of amenorrhea of 2 months. So I would like to do that as well. So basically, after doing the investigations, I know that here we have got this. But in cases, if we find that the history suggests, or then anything like that, then for congenital adrenal hyperplasia, we can do 17-hydroxyprogesterone levels, and for Cushing syndrome, 24-hour urine sample for cortisol and creatinine levels. So this will be the investigation part for it. And then coming to the management part, the main thing in the management would be lifestyle management, and she needs to be educated and counseled about the lifestyle changes she needs to have. And diet, exercise would be the main goal of the treatment. She should be counseled about that even 5 to 7% of loss of body weight can resume her normal menstrual functions, and also reduce the hirsutism by reducing hyperandrogenemia. So obviously I'll explain her about the diet part of avoiding fried and junk food and low calorie diet and all. And for exercise, at least 4 times a week, something like that, I would advise her. Now coming to her case, after checking that she's not pregnant, and I would induce bleeding with the progesterones, and after she gets a withdrawal bleed, I'll put her on oral contraceptive pills. Now, oral contraceptive pills that would deal with her menstrual irregularity as well as hirsutism. So along with starting the medications, we need to explain to the patient that it takes some while for her hirsutism to be dealt with. And the hair which she's already got, it is not going to disappear completely. So it takes time, at least 6 to 9 months time should be given for the medicines to act. And along with it, she can get a help with our dermatologist friend, and she can have procedures done like laser, and also other mechanical measures can be taken like bleaching and waxing and all. Other than that, there are topical creams as well, like eflornithine, which basically reduce the hair growth, and that can be applied. So for the hirsutism part, this should be explained to her. And also we'll ask her to come in the follow-up. If there's no response with the oral contraceptive pills after 6 to 9 months, we can consider anti-androgens like spironolactone or finasteride. And if we start anti-androgens, then we have to be sure that contraception should be given along with it, because they can cause problems.
She's an unmarried girl, 18 years.
Yeah.
So otherwise, we have to be careful.
Yeah, we have to give that. So basically, these all things should be told to her. And also in her follow-up visit, I would, if the problems don't subside, then we can consider giving her insulin sensitizer. And she should be educated for her further problems as well in the future, that she can have like problems of hypertension, diabetes, dyslipidemia, and fertility. So she has to take lifelong precautions. So that would be my treatment line.
It's nicely told, Dr. Pooja. Thank you for the elaborate description and treatment of hirsutism. We now prefer the drug of choice is drospirenone is the drug of choice because it is the 4th generation progestin. The previous ones, they had some amount of androgenic effect in them. So this is anti-adipogenic. Like the patients who are obese, it is good for them also. Then anti-androgenic to hai hai. Then it is anti-mineralocorticoid also. So we don't have to worry that she may later have edema or hypertension and all. And it improves insulin sensitivity to some extent. And it has no impact on the endothelial function, for which people are scared for long-term use. Estrogen in the OCP, it stimulates SHBG secretion, which is one more problem with the PCOS patients, because in them the sex hormone binding globulin has decreased, and that is causing the testosterone levels to the free testosterone to rise and cause this hirsutism and all. So now we'll move to some other thing. Cosmetic treatment has also been discussed. Gone somewhere, so we'll have to wait for her. She has gone for some delivery and all. Now I think we should discuss something which has also become an epidemic, like the COVID. Insulin resistance, we keep on hearing, because previously in the start of this decade, like 10 years back, we were every time hearing microbial resistance and all that. But now this insulin resistance has also become a very popular term. And this insulin resistance is thought to be a culprit for many diseases, causing many derangements and many metabolic disorders. So one is because like in this PCOS, we are taking this insulin resistance and in the context of PCOS, and I'll invite Dr. Shubha Pandey to please tell us in detail about what is this insulin resistance, and
Thank you, Manisha. Sometimes cells in a person's body, like in the muscle, fat, and liver, do not respond well to insulin. Then the glucose cannot be used for energy by the body. When the body does not respond to insulin, the level of glucose in the blood increases. This causes more insulin to be produced as the body tries to move the glucose into the cells. This is insulin resistance, and later on it can lead to diabetes mellitus. It may also be associated with acanthosis nigricans. Insulin resistance and the resulting hyperinsulinemia leads to increased androgen production, both ovarian and adrenal. The clinical manifestations, therefore, are menstrual irregularity, hirsutism, acne, alopecia, obesity, increased waist to hip ratio, may be obstructive sleep apnea. They may be associated anxiety and depression. Insulin resistance is measured by the ratio of fasting blood sugar and fasting insulin. Normally, it is below 4.5. Fasting serum insulin should be less than 25 milli-international units per ml. HOMA-IR index is equal to fasting insulin multiplied by fasting glucose divided by 22.5. Insulin resistance is found both in lean and obese women. It's more so in obese women. So to sum up, insulin resistance is defined as a reduced glucose uptake response to a given amount of insulin.
Now I like to discuss a case with Dr. Shubha. A 24-year-old patient comes to your OPD with excessive hair growth on upper lips, sideburns, and acne on her face. She is married a few months back. She doesn't wish to conceive as she is busy with her career. She has consulted a dermatologist, but and maybe he has asked to consult the gynecologist. The menstrual history, I'll tell you, it is 3 days by 40 to 60 days since menarche. But now because she has married and she's not wanting to conceive, so she is concerned about her periods. Now, how will you manage her problems, and what advice would you like to give her as a clinician?
Okay. First of all, I'll reassure her and counsel her. Explain to her that the condition can be reversed and the cycles can be normalized. Since she is presenting as a case of hyperandrogenism, I have to rule out androgen secreting tumors, late onset congenital adrenal hyperplasia, Cushing syndrome, and no drug intake like testosterone, anabolic steroids, danazol, antipsychotics, methyl dopa, and maybe progesterone. Then I have to counsel her about her lifestyle modification. Weight reduction is most important. Even 5 to 10% of weight loss can restore ovarian function, help lower the circulating androgen levels, and improve insulin resistance within 6 months. Hirsutism can also decrease within 6 to 9 months. I will advise her now to modify her diet. Frequent feeds, 4 to 6 meals per day to avoid hypoglycemia and hunger, reduce the intake of fat and simple sugars, take low glycemic index carbohydrates, and thus have a healthy, balanced diet of regular, hypocalorific meals. The third important thing for her is to exercise regularly, up to 30 minutes of sweat-inducing exercises. She should have adequate sleep for at least 7 to 8 hours and stay de-stressed by meditation, yoga, music, Reiki, or anything else she may like. To correct her cycle and hirsutism, I will advise her combined oral pills, something like Dronis 30 maybe, which contains drospirenone 3 mg and ethylene estradiol 30 micrograms. Drospirenone is anti-adipogenic anti-androgenic, and anti-mineralocorticoid. But this will not correct the insulin resistance. So I will add myoinositol and D-chiroinositol in a 40:1 ratio. She does not want to conceive. So combined oral pills with anti-androgenic effect is the treatment of choice. But I will advise her these pills just for 6 to 9 months. She's an educated young lady with PCOS. Her cycles are delayed. She has impaired glucose tolerance, borderline high triglycerides and testosterone levels. BMI is 25. For this young lady, it is best not to delay pregnancy too long as it can develop metabolic syndrome. She can develop metabolic syndrome. I will explain to her that slowly her ovarian reserve is diminishing, ovum are maturing partially, and they are being depleted. So the antral follicle count will go down. She can end up with subfertility. Also, the underlying PCOS changes will continue, and she might end up with type 2 diabetes and be prone for cardiovascular accidents, sleep apnea, and long-term health issues. So I will motivate her to plan her pregnancy soon after 6 to 9 months, maybe.
Thank you, Dr. Shubha, for making this insulin resistance so crystal clear for us. I hope everyone has understood very nicely. This is the insulin resistance syndrome, which Dr. Shubha has nicely told. It is affecting so many things. Dyslipidemia, which we saw in this patient. This lipidemia, it will further lead to atherosclerosis and hypertension. The hyperinsulinemia will take her to diabetes and coronary artery disease. Then this high levels of insulin, they also induce fatty liver changes. That is also a problem for the patient at later age. Both micro and macrovascular risk are increased with type 2 diabetes. So it is best to educate them about the PCOS and its after effects and metabolic derangements, so that she can take contraception for maximum 1 or 2 years, but later on she has to go in for pregnancy if she wants. And the lifestyle management and the lifestyle changes, they'll have to go on lifelong, and she has to be educated that you keep yourself screened for BP, sugar, etc. also, as Dr. Shubha has told. Savita has come back. Dr. Savita? Dr. Savita, she had gone for some patient to her hospital. Okay, should we wait for her 2-3 minutes? Or call her? So we all know that PCOS is the commonest cause of infertility, and moving to the third stage of life, like this patient who has PCOS and she's struggling with infertility, that we wanted to discuss with Savita. So never mind. This is a 29-year-old overweight lady working with multinational company, married 2 years back, has amenorrhea of 3 months. Cycle since menarche were of 60 days, for which she took some Ayurvedic treatment, but was not so serious, I think. And often she was taking drugs for withdrawal bleeding. She has on examination coarse hair on mustache area and hyperpigmented thick skin on the nape of neck. Her BMI is 28 and urine pregnancy test is negative. From this clinical examination and the history, it seems that the anovulatory cycles and menstrual disorder is definitely there since menarche, but it has been ignored by the patient and her mother. Then on examination, we find coarse hair, mustache area. That is an indication of hyperandrogenism, because at 29 years, we have to be careful. It cannot be physiological at that. Either it is drug induced or it is pathological, and somewhere defect may be lying in the ovarian androgen secretion or androgen synthesis. Then one thing, she has a hyperpigmented thick skin on nape of neck. This is, we call it as acanthosis nigricans, and it is many times seen in patients who have insulin resistance. So it is a very evident indicator of insulin resistance, which is already set up in her. And along with that, the BMI is also on the higher side. She is obese for her age, overweight for her age, and urine pregnancy test is normal, negative. That is the main problem for her. Now, how we have to investigate her and what advice we have to give. Dr. Savita has come back. Dr. Savita has come back. Dr. Ritu, please ask, or we'll we'll take the thing forward. Dr. Ritu, can you hear me? Prateek ji.
Yes, ma'am.
Dr. Savita को phone करिए या फिर should we continue?
ओके ठीक है, मैं आप कंटिन्यू करिए, मैं तब तक कॉल करता हूँ उनको.
Okay, okay.
हाँ.
No problem.
Hello.
Savita, you are back. Good.
No, Dr. Savita is not back. She's coming in 15 minutes.
Okay.
Okay. Okay, ठीक है. Never mind. Now, we have just seen only the clinical examination and her history. Male factor is okay. Then what will be the next step for investigations? We'll have to do the routine investigations, which we can do in the same day when she enters our OPD. CBC, RBS, HbA1c, we can do stat on the same day, because otherwise these working women, they are very hesitant to come again and again. Then ultrasound pelvic scan. Nowadays, the ultrasonologists, they say that even with amenorrhea, you can get it done. Savita is back or what? Chalo bhai. Come on. Continue. We have come to your ultrasound. History we have just discussed, and clinical examination. Now you do ultrasound and tell us, what do you expect in that patient of infertility? 20 years old.
Question.
I'll just show you. Wait. 29 years old, overweight.
Yeah, ma'am.
3 months, married 2 years back. Delayed cycles. Okay, you can see on the screen.
Yeah, I've seen on the screen. Ma'am, actually she's overweight and showing clinical signs of hyperandrogenemia and anovulation, and very keen to conceive. So I will examine her properly after taking her detailed history, detailed personal history, personal medical history, or any history of drug intake.
She has been taking drugs for withdrawal off and on. This positivity you have with you.
Contraceptive she might be taking, and will about in childhood times or at pivotal time, so as to suspect tubal factor also simultaneously. And then I will examine her blood pressure and look for other signs of hyperandrogenemia in this. Then we'll do ultrasound or pelvic scan to look for PCO morphology of the ovaries, whether it is in one ovary or both the ovaries, and what is the ovarian volume and count, and any other pelvic pathology along with endometrial thickness. And about the blood investigations, according to now the
No,
recent
continue with the ultrasound now.
Yeah, ma'am.
Ultrasound continue karo.
Ultrasound,
Continue with the ultrasound. To know more
okay, now
details.
yeah, now the latest criteria to diagnose PCO morphology with 8 millihertz transducer and through transvaginal scan, as we are very too much advancing in ultrasound techniques, the number of follicles per ovary is more than 20. Now even it is getting up to 25, but more than 20 is still now is the number of follicles. What is the stromal thickness, stromal echogenicity, and the ovarian volume that should be more than 10 ml. This is the PCO morphology of the ovaries. And for endometrial thickness also, because many times they are having thickened endometrium also along with this, and any other pathology I will look for in ultrasound. And then coming to the blood investigations, I will do her this LH, FSH, AMH.
AMH, what you are expecting? AMH.
AMH, yeah, AMH. Hi, ma'am. Adds
By
to the
a history
diagnosis.
of 60 days cycle, what you are expecting? High or low?
Ma'am, it
high or
may
low?
be high. It may be high. It may be low.
No.
Most of the time, ma'am, yeah, because ovaries sometimes lag behind the level of the AMH. There is discordance.
No, but she's only 28 years.
Yeah, then too, ma'am.
Yes, it can be.
And this free androgen index, total testosterone, SHBG, her fasting insulin glucose, HOMA-IR index, and lipid profile. I will go for all these because she's keen to conceive, and so that nothing is left to miss in the diagnosis, because she will ask to conceive, and then I will prescribe her withdrawal bleeding along with insulin sensitizers, as she is obese, and obesity and insulin resistance are very much correlated in these PCO patients. Yeah, ma'am.
Okay, good. The thing is that you said about withdrawal bleeding. What the recent like studies, they say that withdrawal bleeding is not needed as such.
Yeah.
You have seen the ultrasound and everything, it is okay. Nothing known, because we can see the endometrial thickness also. Previously, when we were studying 30 years back, that time it was an assessment that if the estrogen priming is good and the endometrium is good, it will respond to progesterone. So that was a test for endometrial thickness.
Yes,
right. Words, but now you can nicely assess. But never mind. The other aspect of giving withdrawal bleeding is that at least they are satisfied. There's some treatment is being done. She'll come to you again to tell about the periods and all. But ultrasound, you can get it done on the same day also.
Definitely, yeah. The recent
we had a
consensus
concept, and ultrasound people also, they used to say that send her on 3rd day or 4th day. How can we do antral follicle count, this and that? But now they say that the stromal like echogenicity, it is higher than the endometrium in these patients. That is very diagnostic. And especially for the young girls, like adolescent girls, the volume may be slightly higher, maybe 14, 15, not exactly 10 always, but we have to see that stromal echogenicity, which is more confirmatory and more diagnostic of PCOS changes, because the stroma has increased and the follicle part is immature, and like जैसे बहुत से पौधे लगे हैं, but all are very small. Only the stroma is increasing.
Yeah.
So follicular monitoring you have to do. Okay.
Definitely.
Ultrasound will not give anything. If we find multiple follicles, it's okay for her, but further we have to see. So will you try to give her ovulation induction for this patient? Tubal factor is okay, male partner is okay.
Yeah, definitely we'll try to give ovulation
What
induction.
will be your drug of choice, which you prefer?
Letrozole. But ma'am, only after a proper counseling of the patient to reduce adequate weight, because that is also equally important.
Definitely.
That must hit in her mind that modifying her lifestyle and diet, she can reduce 5 to 10% of her weight, and that is going to help her in conceiving. This I will counsel.
It will take at least 6 months. If she wants to reduce 5%, like suppose I'm expecting her to be roughly around 60. Even if kg has to be lost, it will take 5-6 months. And if don't give her any drug, she'll think, "Arey, IVF center mein aaye, doctor is not giving me any drug." So we have to start, like if other things are favorable, you can always give ovulation induction along with your inositol and everything, because that take care of her weight also and of the hyperandrogenism also. But in my opinion, I think it is good to start them because she's already 28.
I will start with letrozole along with minoxidil and other.
You're not giving clomiphene?
Ma'am,
the negative points of clomiphene?
Negative is a multifollicular
multiple pregnancy rate.
Multiple pregnancy chances will be high. PCO patient. That's why. And clomiphene resistance and failure is little bit higher.
Yes, it is higher.
Letrozole has got shorter half-life and no anti-estrogenic effect, less of shells.
Anti-androgenic effect is also not there for letrozole.
And we'll do her follicle monitoring, and whenever the follicle is okay, we'll give the trigger so as to avoid luteinized unruptured follicle also, that may reduce the chances. This would be my choice to induce her.
Definitely. You also have to take care of her anxiety and depressive symptoms. Maybe that is causing overweight, because once the patients are depressed, they go in for bulimia nervosa. And the other thing is disordered eating. Disordered eating is because of their familial bad habits of eating all those puri parathas and all those things. Or maybe she's working, so in the canteen she's only getting samosa and pizza that she's eating. That we have to change. You definitely have to change.
Ma'am, please excuse me.
What problems do you face with gonadotrophins?
Yeah, ma'am.
You are an IVF specialist, so you must be coming across.
My patient is having PPH. I will have to leave. Excuse me, ma'am.
Okay. No problem. Jao, bhai. Now, in spite of we give FSH even in low dose, but what happens is that many follicles are in PCOS, they are growing up. So what happens that even the 75 international units or 37.5 international units of FSH will act on all of them, and it can induce a hypersensitive response that is known as ovarian hyperstimulation syndrome. So we have to be very careful with these PCOS patients. And if she is belonging to an outstation or coming from far off places, it is better to ask her to stay in the hospital for 24 hours. And if after first injection, if the response is okay, then gradually increase it after monitoring daily. Then we have to see whether the dominant follicle is there. If more than 2 dominant follicles are present, and other thing is that we can do E2 levels also now. That should be within from 450 to maximum 1000. They say, but clinically or practically, I have seen people saying that if it is 500-600 picogram, we avoid or we increase the duration in between the second or the third dose, whichever is due for the patient. And then they again get it done so that they can avoid this OHSS. And if she is definitely having 2 dominant follicles or the E2 is in a very high range beyond 3500 picogram, then omit the trigger. The risk of OHSS is very, very high. So that is a very important aspect in PCOS patients. It has to be taken care in all patients, but in PCOS, we have to be very careful because that leads to extracellular leakage of the electrolytes and fluid. So what happens is that the cell itself is dehydrated and the electrolytes and the fluid content of the cell, it moves out. So the things are that extracellular edema is there. And patient says that I have got edema, or you have to, every time you have to tell her that if you get any excessive pain in abdomen or in breathing difficulty, then definitely report to the hospital or call us and come to the hospital so that she can be treated at a earlier stage. Because what happens is that if she goes to a like normal physician or some GP type in suburbs, what happens that once they see the edema, like if they see edema on the abdominal wall or distension and all, or even because of pleural effusion, they will think that it is good to give diuretics, and they will start Lasix tablet. Then once they start Lasix tablet, the patient goes from worst to worst, from frying pan to fire she'll go if we give diuretic. The treatment for this type of edema, extracellular leakage of electrolytes and fluid, is not diuretics, but instead we have to give her IV fluids in a proper like monitored manner. And along with that, we have a drug cabergoline that is also given in these cases of OHSs, or that is a recent recent inclusion in this recent role of cabergoline in OHSs. But let us see what happens. Now Savita's patient has conceived, and she conceived within 1 year. She came to Savita at 28 years. Now she conceived by the age of 80 years after weight reduction and lifestyle management and ovulation induction. Then she left the city, got promoted, and was happy with 1-child family. After 8 years, she again returns with heavy flow, irregular cycles, which are sometimes 20 days, sometimes 45 days. She has gained a considerable amount of weight. Now, this is the patient who is already almost entered the midlife, like 30 plus 8, almost 38 years of age. And now she has come with a different picture. That time she was having long cycles, 60 days, 45 days, 50 days. So now I'll call Dr. Garima. Dr. Garima. प्रतीक जी, डॉक्टर गरिमा
मैम वो एक सेकंड वो है ऑनलाइन अभी तो थे वो
yes ma'am
मैम वो है ऑनलाइन
yes she is there present. Yeah, okay, now Garima, your 38-year-old patient is there with a lot of weight gain. Okay, she has come with this है ना screen, on the screen can you see the case?
Yes ma'am, yes ma'am, yes ma'am. The patient
now
has
you
been...
have to handle what to do.
Yeah ma'am, now she has
how
come
to investigate her.
Yes ma'am, because she had a history of PCOS and infertility treatment in her previous years, and now she has again gained weight. So at this middle age of life, she is at high risk for again developing that PCOS syndrome, and moreover to the metabolic syndrome also. So at this age of her life, she is at increased risk of developing type 2 diabetes mellitus, cardiovascular diseases, and deranged liver function test, kidney function test. So I like to investigate her on these lines only. First, PCOS has to be diagnosed, and then her HbA1c or oral glucose tolerance test to rule out insulin resistance, and her fasting lipid profile to rule out dyslipidemia in these patients. And we'll like to advise her sonography TVS to see the endometrial thickness, because she's having irregular menses and she is at increased risk for endometrial hyperplasia also. will like to get her hysteroscopy, guided biopsy, or endometrial aspiration to rule out endometrial hyperplasia or any other pathology underlying it. Because age and her history and medical disorders, it may all lead to endometrial cancer also in the coming years. So all these lines has to be investigated to rule out all these disorders, ma'am.
Okay. Now, what you are expecting in this endometrial biopsy?
Endometrial biopsy, it might be endometrial hyperplasia also, or endometrial cancer also. So,
cancer, no.
It's rare, but endometrial hyperplasia is expected. Yeah, ma'am. Endometrial hyperplasia is there. So if there is hyperplasia or if present, then
either it can be proliferative phase.
Yeah, ma'am. Yeah, ma'am. Proliferative phase
because hyperestrogen.
Yeah, ma'am.
Now, what would you like to do if it is proliferative?
If it is proliferative hyperplasia, I like to put her on progesterone only pills and non-hormonal selective estrogen receptor modulators, or if she is agreed, then LNG IUS also. After counseling her to get her checked up with her ultrasound and all in the coming years also. This will benefit her.
She has to undergo screening. Periodic screening is required.
Periodic screening, yeah,
one is for the endometrial tissue, and the other screening is for the metabolic disorders, which she is having and carrying since last 10 years. 10 years or maybe 15 years.
Yes, ma'am. Lifestyle modification also required.
Yes, definitely, definitely. Now you have to tell her and educate her that weight reduction, this diet modification, and all the drugs and all, whatever you are giving, and keep a watch on the BP and blood sugar, all that has to be done very seriously.
Because these all factors are...
She took it very lightly, but now you have to tell her. Now, what will you do for the follow-up and all?
Ma'am, I'll advise her and counsel her about all the risk factors she can undergo, like cardiovascular diseases and insulin resistance. So she had to keep check up on her BMI, and BP monitoring also is required. If blood pressure is raised, then she has to be monitored accordingly, and her fasting lipid profile also. All these things has to be annually checked, or if they are, yeah, ma'am.
Yes, definitely. And she has to consult a physician also and be in regular checkup with the physician also.
Because all these things are preventable if she can follow it.
What about this Mirena? What do you think? If her histopathology shows it is proliferative phase.
Yeah, ma'am. Mirena will definitely benefit her. Yeah, ma'am. But some counseling is required regarding that, because if we put Mirena, then some kind of spotting is there, and it may mask further features also. She had to undergo ultrasound or some kind of
regular
checkup.
Ultrasound every 3 months.
Yeah, ma'am.
Okay. Otherwise, it is the treatment of choice for her.
Yeah, ma'am. It is a good alternative if she doesn't want hysterectomy or what.
Yeah,
ma'am.
She doesn't need pregnancy also, and there is no sense in making her pregnant after 38 years, because she will have so many problems with that also. The child may have problems during this pregnancy. In this PCOS patients, we have to be very careful about the gestational diabetes. So we have to tell them that you have to keep, in the this patient, when she was taking infertility treatment, we missed Savita. She was busy with her PPH and all. Otherwise, we have to tell those patients who are seeking fertility that you have to be very careful about your blood sugar. It is not only the treatment and pregnancy, because the embryogenesis starts even before you miss the periods. So you have to keep the blood sugar or HbA1c if it is high, or your diet or exercise. All that has to be in a proper manner, so that when you conceive, that time your blood sugar is normal. Otherwise, embryogenesis will be affected and somehow they may land in congenital abnormalities or other problems. And during pregnancy also, they have to be more careful. Like one, you have to do the OGTT at 3 months, then at 20 weeks. So all that has to be told to the patient. Similarly, we missed that because otherwise Savita would have told us. So similarly for this period of time also, she has to be careful because this time she'll be having metabolic disorders. Now, sequelae of PCOS. You have already told.
Yeah, ma'am. All those metabolic syndromes, they are all the sequelae of PCOS or insulin resistance.
Yeah,
ma'am.
So for that, for prevention in the early stages, that is why the main aim of our PCOS study and discussion on this case scenario is that the aim should be that first educate the patient, whether she's of a rural background or from an urban background. Her parents or her mother have to be taught that it is not only the periods that you are concerned about. It is a ongoing disease and it may last with her, like the changes are there already in the body. Hyperinsulinemia is predetermined and it will remain all throughout the life. So she has to always take care of her weight, be in continuous touch with the doctors also, or physician for a high blood pressure or high sugar. She always has to keep a watch. Otherwise, same thing will happen. Like this patient left the doctor and she landed in metabolic problems and endometrial hyperplasia especially. So now I would ask our expert, Dr. Mehrotra, and our chairperson, Dr. Verma, to say a few words.
Doctor, please unmute yourself.
Ma'am was here, Dr. Verma.
Yes, ma'am.
Unmute करो अपने को रागिनी.
Dr.
रागिनी unmute करो.
मैम unmute request accept कीजिए. रागिनी मैम.
रागिनी unmute करो.
हाँ, हो गया मैम, unmute हो गया.
Thank you so much, Manisha. And I'll just have to summarize, or I'll just say a few words only, because everything has been discussed in details. That we many a times when we have the patient, we don't care for a detailed history, which is very important in this case. It's not simply menstrual irregularity. There are so many things in history which are to be asked in details. And also when we were studying, the incidence was said to be 5 to 8%. Then gradually it became to 10%, it became 15%, and nowadays it has become 20 to 22% finally. That means it was earlier also it was an underdiagnosed situation. So it's good that we have realized that the incidence is more than what we had realized earlier, and we should go in for investigation in all such patients thoroughly. Those PCOS, the main thing is hyperandrogenism. That has come up over the years. Earlier the polycystic ovaries was main, then the menstrual irregularity was main, but at the moment, main issue is hyperandrogenism, which has to be taken care of. And when you proceed for managing the case, every patient has to have a customized management because the problems are different. And so the goal of treatment also is different, whether you have to treat only menstrual irregularity, or you have to treat the infertility problem, or you have to go in for hyperandrogenism, or else for metabolic disorders. So the treatment is individualized, always depending upon the problem of the concerned woman and the goal of the treatment, which has to be decided. And more on that the stress factor is also working to increase the incidences of such diseases like PCOS and metabolic disorders, and also increasing the incidence of hyperglycemia, and also incidence increasing of PCOS. Both combined, both go well together, hand in glove. So the most important is to check for weight and glucose level. That is very important, and I think it is important for everyone, and also for all of us also. To check, to keep your weight under check and keep your blood sugar under check. And then the sequence of events go to when they go to hypertension, diabetes, and heart disease. They all are prevented from the very beginning. That become more important in a patient of PCOS, because those are already predisposed to all these factors. Because by the time when the woman reaches to perimenopausal age, her menstrual irregularities may settle down on itself, but her insulin resistance goes on. It is not. The PCOS is a condition when there is no cure. So one has to take precautions, and prevention is the only thing which we can do for PCOS, along with the symptomatic treatment as suited to the particular patient. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. You nicely summarized the session today. Now I'll request ma'am to say a few words and some take-home messages for us.
Thank you, Manisha. Thank you, Manisha. And I would like to say congratulate for the maiden attempt by the moderator and the panelists, both. The things have been very nicely and clearly explained. And all the areas which needed emphasis, and they are well covered, starting from adolescent to the newly married needing a contraception, a married person needing a child, and a person who has completed a family, and then resulting in prevention from the metabolic syndrome. Now, as we all know that it is not, the PCOS is not only the reproductive disorder, but it is basically an endocrinal as well as a metabolic disorder, as we all know about it. So it is crucial to diagnose PCOS in its early course. Therefore, in adolescent where a diagnosis is not clear, it is preferable to follow the symptoms and repeat the evaluation every 6 to 12 months, because first 2 years are very crucial, and the two things can overlap each other. So in adolescent, the diagnosis of PCOS has to be taken very carefully. Then it's also imperative not only to recognize the PCOS, but also to arrest its metabolic sequelae at the end of the reproductive age, and to prevent and to arrest the increased risk for cardiovascular and other accidents that are there. Ritu has very nicely explained the epidemiology. The lifestyle modification and COC are the mainstay, as we all know, as far as the management of PCOS symptoms are concerned. But regarding COC combined, I think levonorgestrel and norgestrel should not be given, because they have the chances of hirsutism. Then insulin resistance plays an important role, and metformin, we all has been said. Here I would like to ask a question to you, Manisha. You've said local metformin is being used for
this I came across in a literature, ma'am. They are thinking of making local metformin for this hirsutism. I was also so astonished that
I will have to go through the literature to come out with a solution.
But people abroad are working so hard.
It's like good that the local
for a COVID vaccine,
because the rest of these general symptoms will be there. So in the end, I would like to say it is basically the counseling regarding the lifelong follow-up that is needed. That should be the main emphasis, besides taking care of the symptoms of menstrual irregularity, that's most common, hirsutism and infertility. So it is basically, we have to counsel about the diet, exercise, lifestyle, and long-term sequelae that should be done. So I think I don't have to say anything more. Manisha, one thing I would like to add here is there is a male homologue of PCOS also?
Yeah. I came across when
that,
we were.
I want that to be mentioned also. For
many times they were giving this like changes in the prostate and all, and the drugs which we are using almost the similar drugs are being used there. So they say like in
the symptoms
the stroma is
can tell
increasing.
that there's a baldness that occurs. The baldness that occurs before 30 years of age, and the other signs that are there. So it's not only the female. So we are not we have to take care of the counterpart also. And is there any advantage of being a PCOS person?
Yes, PCOS.
Manisha,
it protects the lady from ovarian cancer. Unless she is for ovulation.
The adipose tissue is much more. The adipose tissue, the PCOS is much more, and therefore the striving of the species, in cases of, calamities like famine and all that, that is taken to be as one of the advantages. And the other thing is the chances of osteoporosis and osteopenia is
and
much less.
Cancer, both are less. Because the estrogen is high.
But then I don't want to emphasize it because we do not promote it. We don't promote it. We just, people want to know about it. That is why I say that we are now concerned about the osteoporosis and osteopenia very much. So one has to be careful while dealing with patients who are PCOS, not to supplement and not to do things which are needed for that. Thank you.
Like similarly, we have read many times that smoking is protective for this PIH, then it is protective for endometriosis, but theoretically or we can never use it, or we can say they have actually the 5-alpha reductase is stimulated by this nicotine. So they say some hormones, they are decreased, and so PIH is protective for PIH during pregnancy.
And one more thing, Manisha, that the high estrogen levels in PCOS also helps to reduce the chances of sarcopenia and fragility at advanced age.
Osteoporosis, yes.
Osteoporosis and sarcopenia and fragility, all three.
Okay. All three. Okay. Thank you, ma'am. Now we'll ask our panelists to say some 1 or 2 words, whatever you feel like. Dr. Garima, what would you like to say to ma'am, meeting after such a long time? How was your experience?
Ma'am, unmute yourself.
Unmute. Hey, unmute.
Ma'am, this panel made me go through all the PCOS aspect and in a very good way, like from adolescent to the midlife. I have never read it like that, but now I am feeling good because I have learned a lot of things from this panel.
They were asking for questions from the beginning. Like 20 days back, they were saying question de dijiye. I said no. Read these things, 4 things, and then gradually I'll.
Yeah, madam taught us very nicely.
Or where are other people? Savita.
I'm here, ma'am.
Pooja, come on.
Pooja, I'm audible, ma'am.
Vaccination today, in spite, I said you take paracetamol and you have to come.
I'm not having any problem, ma'am.
No problem.
I would first like to say thanks to Lalita ma'am for showing belief in me and asking me to come as a panelist. And I thank you as well to guide us very.
You're always welcome.
And thank you, Ragini ma'am. Thank you, Ritu ma'am. It was much fun. It was fun reading and it was fun participating. And I'm looking forward to many more of working with you all.
Okay. Thank you, ma'am.
Manisha, you did very well. Excellent.
Yes,
thank you, ma'am. Thank you so much.
Manisha, very well conducted. Very well.
Manisha,
thank
really,
you.
Congratulations.
I was playing teacher game. Like in student life.
You are conducting
teacher game. क्योंकि कुछ मौका मिला था to teach the juniors कि ये पढ़ो, question दिखाओ, answer लिख के दिखाओ. So we were doing all those things.
It is for everybody's benefit in some way or the other.
Yeah, some way or the other. Because once we prepare, we also go through the literature. Otherwise, we just go through 1 or 2 books and finish. But once you take part in the
The
panel.
emphasis you made, what points that makes you a difference when you attend all these things and when you read, you
Yeah.
come to know what are things which are really important.
Yeah, definitely. Because otherwise we only see the clinical part and then finish off. We don't see the theoretical part and all that. So that remains in the back of the mind.
That is how CMEs are so important.
Yeah, definitely.
So
Dr.
can I say a
Ragini
few
and
words?
Dr. Manju Verma, they are
Can I say a
always
few words?
Sure, sure, ma'am.
Yeah, it was very nice
Dr.
for a
Mishra.
teacher to become the taught. Okay. Today we have been taught many things.
No,
And thank
ma'am,
you.
ऐसा नहीं हो सकता.
Thank you, Manish. Conducted very
It
well.
can't be that way. I was just saying for Pooja and all, they are busy with their
No.
job, and Pooja has to go
please.
quite long. I never knew. She's going almost to Manjan and coming back daily up and down. So I came to know. I said,
So,
oh,
thank
prepare
you
in
for
the
a
night.
very scintillating program. Thank you.
Okay, then it was nice, ma'am, seeing you on the platform. Because many times I asked the MR also that you can visit ma'am's place half an hour before and get her connected, and then you come back. Then she'll continue. He
No,
said that.
today Amrita did the thing. Amrita gave me the
Yeah,
link.
Amrita was also helpful. She's
So it
always
was
there
easy.
for you.
And it was very nice that you joined us. And it is always good to have seniors. It is always good to have colleagues and also juniors. For me also to learn every time.
Yes, ma'am. It is nostalgic for us. We remember the days when in fourth year you, Dr. Mehrotra, Verma was teaching us PCOS and this endometriosis and all those notes we used to keep and then read. We can't forget. And then the same notes we kept for the PG also. They were like, those notes are very nice, the UG days.
हाँ है लेकिन बहुत पुराने हो गए हैं वो.
नहीं अब नहीं है मैम, अब तो कोई नहीं
So many
रखता.
new things which have come up.
अब तो नहीं कोई
सब
रखता.
चीज नेट पे अवेलेबल है, कोई नहीं रखता है, कोई नोट्स नहीं लेता.
हम ही लोग इतना क्लटर इकट्ठा करते हैं बुक्स. अभी भी आई हैव माय विलियम्स, माय नोवेल्स. हमने कहा हम आई कांट गिव इट.
बहुत सारी किताबें हैं भैया, बहुत मुश्किल.
हम नहीं भी देखे लेकिन
बहुत पेपर, बहुत कागज.
मेरे पास भी बहुत किताबें हैं. अब वो सोच रहे हैं कि डोनेट करें, कहाँ करें, ये समझ में नहीं आता.
AMA is going to start a library, ma'am.
That is what I was saying. We want a library. I will donate the cover.
If you want a cover. Put on your video also. Ritu Saxena.
Ritu Saxena. Who is Ritu?
Ritu Saxena from Lucknow. She's my batchmate.
Okay.
We are always in touch. On 26th, she sent me Independence Day message. That time I said, if you are free.
Okay, Manisha Di, I also want to thank you and all the esteemed panelists for this wonderful panel discussion. Each and every point was discussed so very well. Am I audible?
Yeah.
Very audible.
Audible.
Yeah, I must say each and every point was explained so well. Every panelist have gone through the topic so well that they didn't leave any question unanswered and any question unturned. So well and beautifully Didi has planned this and discussed, made every point clear, and whatever the point was left, Dr. Manisha took it up so nicely, and I'm sure that many of us have picked up so many take-home messages and practical points which will help in our practice. So thank you, Manisha Di, for making it a wholesome
welcome.
and
You are always
experience.
welcome.
Yeah.
सूत्रधार बनने के लिए हमेशा राजी.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
And I also
Okay,
want to thank all my panelists, Dr. Shubhadi, Dr. Sabita Dikshit, Dr. Garima, then Dr. Pooja, and above all, Dr. Ragini Mehrotra, ma'am. She has been my guide in my PG days and when I was in medical college, and my sincere gratitude to you, ma'am, with my folded hands. Now I want to thank Dr. Manju Verma, ma'am, for her kind support. And I always mean it.
She's always there to support
us. Yeah. That's what I'm saying. I always mean whenever I say so. Ma'am,
She's a helpline, I think, for most of.
Yeah, Didi, I agree, totally, I agree. And Dr. Lalita Di, though you have a very calm demeanor, but you are a lady of, you have the courage of your convictions, Didi. Congratulations to you, Didi, for this wonderful first webinar.
Lalita Didi is the fittest person in AOGS.
Yeah, I know.
Every year she is getting the prize for race. Walk race.
Thank you, Manisha. I was
race, over
able to
50
see
race.
everybody from Allahabad.
Yeah.
Ritu is
Nice
speaking.
to see you, Ritu.
Same here.
Thank you,
joined.
Didi. Thank you.
Happy to see
At
everybody
least-
from Allahabad.
Yes. It is nice. At least we can connect virtually, because otherwise you can't come all the way from Lucknow to Allahabad. That we have to plan. Remember these days we were in Lucknow last year.
Yes.
The ICOG, for the ICOG.
Yeah, ICOG going on.
28th only I had gone.
And I fondly remember even Dr. Dayal was with us.
Yes, she was there.
She was there. So
that is the saddest part, losing someone from us. Very sad.
Anisha, can we close the meeting now?
Yes, I think we
Thank
should.
you, Manisha.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you all.
I thank the Acumentus people also.
We will all
thank you
get
so much, ma'am.
vaccinated
For nicely
very soon.
organizing it.
Yeah. Thank you.
And you keep meeting Dr. Lalita off and on. She'll let you know about the further meetings. Okay. Thank you, Pratik ji.
Yes, thank you, Manisha, ma'am.
I'm leaving.
Thank you, Acumentus
Yeah.
people. Thank you very much for giving us this platform.
Thank you so much, ma'am.
Thank you.
Yes,
Thank you
bye.
all the panelists. Thank you all the esteemed members. Thank you very much. Chalo, Manisha di.
Ma'am, should I end the meeting?
Yeah, sure.
तुम्हारा शुरू में क्या नखरा दिखा रहा था?
हाँ, अमिता
तुम्हारा
क्या
फोन
बोलना
क्या
चाह रही
नखरा
हो?
दिखा रहा था शुरू में?
अनऑफिशियल हो गया तो मैं आ गई। मनीषा दी बहुत अच्छा था, रितु बहुत अच्छा था।
Thank you.
थैंक यू अमिता, तुम तो हमेशा बड़ाई कर।
थैंक यू।
हम लोग तो तुमको इसलिए बुलाते हैं कि बड़ाई तो कर दो।
लॉगिन करके बैठे। सुनो, चित्रा और मीरा को भी वो करो, अनम्यूट कराओ।
कहाँ है चित्रा मीरा?
देख तो रहे हैं इसमें, सब म्यूटेड उसमें पड़े।
नहीं मैं हूँ दीदी।
हाँ, ये देखो चित्रा is here.
Because long time back I saw चित्रा, फिर दिखा ही नहीं।
मैं बिल्कुल मैं बिल्कुल रिजाई में बैठ के बहुत ध्यान से मैंने पूरा सुना।
अच्छा।
नहीं तो नहीं आई चित्रा,
इसलिए
नहीं आई ना।
बिल्कुल नहीं। इसलिए मैंने कैमरा ऑफ किया हुआ था। मैंने
कोई
पूरा
और दिन होता तो मैं भी
ध्यान से सुना।
कोई और दिन होता तो मैं भी रजाई में ही बैठी होती।
Okay, bye. It was very good. Bye.
रजाई का हाल तो नौटियाल दीदी से पूछो।
हाँ, मैंने लिख के भेज
हम लोग
दिया।
इलाहाबाद में परेशान है, देहरादून में तो बहुत ही कम होगा।
हाँ, दिख रही है, टोपी लगी हुई है। चित्रा तुम ठीक हो?
हाँ दीदी।
Okay. Ritu, it was very good.
Thank you दीदी for joining us.
Thank you दीदी।
Very
Thank you
nice.
दीदी
for joining us.
Thank you
It was
दीदी।
very nice.
Please,
रितु बहुत बढ़िया था।
always. keep blessing us,
मैंने सब लिख के भेज दिया था। Okay.
Thank you so much दीदी। हाँ दीदी।
मीरा नहीं दिख रही है।
Bye.
Bye दीदी।
बहुत अच्छा था,
Bye दीदी।
excellent.
Bye दीदी।
Bye.
Bye चित्रा।
Bye everyone. Bye.
Bye.